The transport ship moved slowly toward Station Kepler 7. Inside, Minho Park pressed his face against the small window and watched the massive space station grow larger. It looked like a giant wheel spinning in the darkness with lights dotting its surface like stars. "First time seeing a Confederation station?" asked Yuna Kim from the seat next to him. She was reading through a thick manual about alien safety rules. "Yeah," Minho replied. "It's huge. Much bigger than the asteroid stations back home." Jiho Lee looked up from his tablet where he was studying reactor designs. "Everything here is bigger. And slower. Did you see how long their safety checklist is? 47 steps just to change a light bulb." The three humans were part of Earth's first exchange program with the Galactic Confederation. They had been chosen from thousands of applicants to study at the most famous engineering school in known space. Each of them came from different parts of human space, but they all shared one thing. They were from Earth, a world the aliens called a death planet. "Attention passengers," came a voice over the speaker. "We will dock in 10 minutes. Please prepare for standard safety procedures." Minho smiled. On the mining stations where he worked, docking took 2 minutes and the only safety procedure was hold on tight. But he had learned that aliens did everything very carefully and very slowly. The docking took 45 minutes. When they finally entered the station, the three humans stared in wonder. The corridors were wide and bright, with smooth walls and gentle curves. Everything seemed designed to be as safe as possible. There were handrails everywhere, soft padding on corners and warning signs in 12 different languages. Their guide was a tall, thin alien with blue skin and 4 arms. "Welcome to Station Kepler 7, he said in perfect English. "I am Guide Veltar of the Valonian people. Please follow me and stay within the yellow safety lines on the floor." As they walked, Veltar explained the station rules. No running in corridors, no touching unmarked surfaces, no entering restricted areas, no modifying equipment without proper permits, no. The list went on for 10 minutes. They passed other students in the hallways. Most were aliens Minho had never seen before. There were the crystalline beings who looked like walking gemstones, the Zephyrians who floated rather than walked, and others that defied easy description. A few aliens stared at the humans with curiosity and something that might have been fear. "Are we really that scary?" Yuna whispered. "I heard they think we're crazy," Jiho whispered back. "Something about our safety records." Their first stop was the administration office, where a massive crystalline being sat behind a desk that looked more like a work of art. The being's body was made of what appeared to be living diamond, and when it spoke, its voice sounded like wind chimes. "I am Resonance of Order," it said. "I will be your academic advisor. I must say, your files make for interesting reading." The being touched a crystal panel and holographic displays appeared in the air. "Minho Park, asteroid mining engineer. Survived 17 equipment failures, 43 pressure breaches, and 1 reactor accident. Commendation for repairing life support systems while exposed to vacuum." Minho shrugged. It was only for 3 minutes. The suit held up fine. Resonance of Order's crystal body flickered, which Jiho realized might be the alien equivalent of blinking in surprise. Most beings would die from vacuum exposure in 30 seconds. "Yeah, but humans are tougher than most beings," Yuna said casually. The advisor moved to the next file. Yuna Kim, Mars Terraforming Project, credited with saving Colony Base 7 by manually realigning atmospheric processors during a dust storm, worked outside for 14 hours in conditions rated as unsurvivable. "The storm wasn't that bad," Yuna protested. "And we had good equipment." "Your equipment failed after 2 hours, Resonance of Order noted. "Right, so we improvised." The last file made the alien advisor pause for a long moment. Jiho Lee, Jupiter platform engineer, prevented reactor meltdown by entering the core chamber during emergency shutdown. "Radiation exposure was significant." "I got better," Jiho said simply. "Took a few weeks, but the cancer treatments worked fine." "You developed cancer from the radiation and consider this a minor inconvenience?" "Well, yeah. Better than letting the whole platform explode." 3,000 people lived there. Resonance of Order's crystal body dimmed slightly. "I see. Well, you have been assigned to Advanced Crisis Management taught by Commander Thekvar. This course focuses on proper emergency procedures and safety protocols. Given your backgrounds, I believe you will find it educational." Their next stop was the dormitories. The human quarters were specially designed with Earth normal gravity and atmosphere. The rooms were simple but comfortable. though Minho noticed that everything was built to very high safety standards. The furniture was bolted down, the windows were triple layered, and there were emergency supplies stored in every room. They really don't take chances, do they? He said to his roommate, an alien student named Flittering Concern. The Zephyrian looked like a small cloud with eyes and spoke in a voice like rustling leaves. Taking chances is how beings die. Flittering Concern replied nervously. Safety protocols exist for good reasons. They are written in the blood of those who ignored them. Sure, Minho agreed. But sometimes you don't have time for protocols. Sometimes you just have to fix the problem before it kills everyone. Flittering Concern's form shimmered with anxiety. That sounds terrifying. How do you know what to do? You figure it out as you go, Minho said. Humans are good at that. That evening, the three humans met in the station's recreation area. It was a large space with soft lighting and comfortable seating areas. Everything was designed to be calming and safe. They sat with some of their alien classmates, including Veltar the guide and a student named Geometric Precision, who was a crystalline being like their advisor. We have been reviewing your academic records, Geometric Precision said. Its voice was precise and mathematical. We are confused by your survival rates. According to our calculations, humans from Earth should have much higher mortality rates in dangerous situations. Why? Asked Yuna. Because you ignore established safety procedures, Veltar explained. Your people frequently attempt repairs during emergencies instead of evacuating. You work in dangerous environments without proper equipment. You take risks that would be considered suicidal by any civilized species. Jiho laughed. That's because we don't have a choice. On Earth, everything is trying to kill you. The weather, the animals, the plants, even the ground sometimes. You learn to deal with problems fast or you die. But there are proper procedures for dealing with emergencies, Geometric Precision insisted. Tested methods. Proven techniques. Sure, when you have time and the right tools, Minho said. But what happens when you don't? What happens when the manual is wrong or the equipment breaks or you only have 5 minutes before everyone dies? The aliens looked uncomfortable. Such situations are rare, Veltar said. Not where we come from, Yuna replied. On Earth, that's just Tuesday. As the evening went on, the aliens asked more questions about human engineering and emergency procedures. The humans told stories about fixing broken equipment with spare parts and determination, about improvising solutions to problems that had never been solved before, about risking their lives to save others. The aliens listened with fascination and growing alarm. These humans seemed to treat deadly situations as routine challenges. They spoke of radiation exposure and vacuum breaches the way others might discuss bad weather. When the humans finally went to their quarters, the aliens remained in the recreation area, discussing what they had learned. They are either very brave or very foolish, Veltar said. Perhaps both, replied Geometric Precision. But they are alive and their survival rates are remarkable. There may be something we can learn from their methods. Or they may simply be too ignorant to understand true danger, suggested Flittering Concern. As the station entered its night cycle, the aliens continued their debate. None of them could understand how beings could survive by ignoring safety protocols. They would soon learn that humans didn't ignore safety. They simply had a very different understanding of what safety meant. The Advanced Crisis Management classroom was unlike anything the humans had seen. The walls were covered with charts showing proper emergency procedures, and every seat had a built-in safety harness. Commander Thekvar, their instructor, was a Valonian with dark blue skin and the bearing of a military officer. Welcome to Advanced Crisis Management, Commander Thekvar announced. This course will teach you the proper responses to emergency situations. These procedures have been developed over thousands of years and tested in countless scenarios. They work because they prioritize safety above all else. The class had 30 students, 27 aliens and 3 humans. Minho, Yuna, and Jiho sat together near the back, trying not to draw attention to themselves. Today we will begin with a simple scenario, the commander continued. He pressed a button and a holographic display appeared, showing a space station with a flashing red warning light. Reactor containment failure in Sector 3. You have 4 hours before critical breakdown. What do you do? Veltar raised one of his 4 hands. Follow Emergency Protocol 7A. First, evacuate all personnel from the affected sector. Second, seal all blast doors. Third, contact the emergency response team. Correct, Commander Thekvar said. Continue, Geometric Precision spoke next. Fourth, establish communication with Central Command. Fifth, Prepare backup power systems. Sixth, begin diagnostic procedures to determine the cause of failure. The aliens continued listing steps. Each procedure was detailed and specific. There were protocols for notifying other stations, procedures for handling contaminated materials, steps for documenting the incident, and methods for protecting nearby sectors. After 20 minutes, they had covered all 47 steps of Emergency Protocol 7A. Excellent, Commander Thekvar said. These procedures ensure that no one is put at unnecessary risk and that all proper authorities are notified. Now let us run a simulation. The classroom lights dimmed and suddenly they were standing in a virtual space station. Warning alarms blared and red lights flashed. A computerized voice announced, "Reactor containment failure in Sector 3. All personnel evacuate immediately." The alien students immediately formed organized groups. They assigned roles, established communication chains, and began following the 47-step protocol with careful precision. Every action was deliberate and safe. The humans watched for about 5 minutes before Jiho raised his hand. "Yes?" Commander Thekvar asked. "What if we don't have 4 hours?" Jiho asked. "What if the reactor is going to explode in 30 minutes? "That is not part of this scenario," the commander replied. "But what if it was?" Yuna pressed. "What would you do then?" Commander Thekvar looked uncomfortable. "There are different protocols for different time frames, but the principles remain the same. Safety first, proper procedures, orderly evacuation." Minho was studying the virtual reactor display. "This doesn't look like a normal containment failure," he said. "The pressure readings are wrong. And why is the cooling system still running if the containment is breached?" "Please focus on the protocol," Commander Thekvar said firmly. But the humans had started talking among themselves, pointing at different parts of the display and sketching diagrams on their tablets. "If we reroute the coolant through the secondary manifold," Yuna was saying. "No, that won't work," Jiho interrupted. "But we could use the emergency venting system to create a pressure differential." "Wait," Minho said excitedly. "What if we shut down the reactor completely and use the backup fusion cells to power the containment field?" The alien students had stopped their careful protocol following and were staring at the humans in shock. "You cannot simply shut down a reactor during containment failure," Flittering Concern exclaimed, his cloudy form rippling with anxiety. "The procedures clearly state—" "The procedures assume you have time and working equipment," Yuna said. "But look at this display. Half the safety systems are already offline." Commander Thekvar ended the simulation abruptly. "That is enough for today. Please review chapters 7 through 12 for next class." But as the students filed out, the humans continued their discussion. They had filled 3 tablets with sketches and calculations, exploring solutions that weren't in any manual. The next class was focused on electrical emergencies. Again, the aliens learned the proper protocols, detailed step-by-step procedures for safely dealing with power failures, short circuits, and system overloads. "The key," Commander Thekvar explained, "is to never attempt repairs during an active emergency. First, you make the situation safe, then you follow proper repair procedures." This time, the simulation was a fire in a storage bay. Toxic smoke was spreading through the ventilation system, and several compartments had lost power. The alien students performed perfectly. They established safe zones, organized evacuation routes, and called for specialized firefighting equipment. Everything was done by the book. The humans lasted 3 minutes before they acted. While the aliens were still setting up their command structure, Minho had grabbed a fire suppression unit and was heading toward the flames. Yuna was rerouting power around the damaged circuits, and Jiho was manually overriding the ventilation system to contain the smoke. "Stop," Commander Thekvar shouted. "You are violating basic safety procedures." "The fire is spreading to the oxygen storage tanks," Minho called back as he aimed the suppression foam at the base of the flames. "We don't have time for proper procedures. You should evacuate and wait for the emergency team," the commander insisted. "What emergency team?" Yuna asked as she spliced 2 power cables together with her bare hands. "In the simulation, they're 40 minutes away. The tanks will explode in 10. Jiho had crawled into a maintenance shaft and was manually closing ventilation valves. "Got it," he called. "Smoke is contained. Minho, hit Sector 7 next. That's where it's spreading." Working together, the 3 humans had the fire under control in 8 minutes. The alien students were still organizing their evacuation committees. Commander Thekvar stared at the simulation results in disbelief. Both groups had succeeded, but the humans had finished in 1/3 the time. "Your methods are dangerous," he said finally. "You could have been killed." "So could everyone else if we'd waited 40 minutes, Minho replied. "Sometimes fast and dangerous is safer than slow and careful." After class, Geometric Precision approached the humans with several other alien students. "We do not understand your approach," the crystalline being said. "You seem to ignore all established safety measures." "We don't ignore them," Yuna explained. "We just think about them differently. Your protocols are great when you have time and everything works perfectly, but emergencies aren't perfect." "But how do you know what to do?" asked Veltar. "Without proper procedures, how do you make decisions?" Jiho thought for a moment. "We look at the problem and figure out what needs to happen. Then we find a way to make it happen even if it's not in the manual." "But that is so risky," Flittering Concern whispered. "Everything is risky," Minho said. "The question is whether you're taking a small risk now to prevent a big disaster later, or following safe procedures while everyone dies." The aliens looked troubled by this logic. Their entire civilization was built on careful planning and proven procedures. The idea of improvising solutions to life-threatening problems seemed insane, but they couldn't argue with the results. Time after time, the humans found ways to solve problems faster and more effectively than established protocols allowed. Word of the humans' unusual methods began to spread through the station. Some faculty members were intrigued, others were horrified. Everyone agreed that the humans were unlike any students they had ever seen. The humans themselves were puzzled by the aliens' attitude. Back home, quick thinking and creative problem-solving were basic survival skills. Everyone learned to improvise because on Earth, the alternative was often death. As the weeks passed, the divide between human and alien approaches became more apparent. The aliens relied on proven methods and careful planning. The humans trusted their ability to adapt and overcome obstacles in real time. Neither side fully understood the other, but both were learning. The aliens began to see that rigid procedures had limitations, while the humans gained appreciation for thorough planning and safety measures. The real test of their different philosophies was coming, though none of them knew it yet. The alarm started at 347 station time, not the gentle chimes used for drills, but the harsh wailing sound that meant real danger. Minho woke instantly, his training from the asteroid mines kicking in. He was dressed and moving before his alien roommate even understood what was happening. "Emergency alert," the station's computer announced in its calm, pleasant voice. "Micrometeorite impact detected in Sector 7. Primary reactor cooling system damaged. All personnel report to emergency stations." In the corridors, chaos reigned, or at least what passed for chaos among the carefully organized aliens. Students and faculty moved quickly but orderly toward designated safe areas. Everyone knew their role and followed established procedures. The humans found each other within minutes. Yuna had grabbed her engineering kit. Jiho carried his tablet with reactor specifications, and Minho had somehow acquired a toolkit from somewhere. "Cooling system damage," Jiho said grimly. "That's bad news." They made their way to the main engineering section, where Station Commander Equilibrium of Command stood before a large display showing the damaged areas. The crystalline being's body was flickering rapidly, indicating high stress. "The situation is serious but manageable," the commander announced to the gathered crowd. "Standard Emergency Protocol 12C is now in effect. Specialized repair drones are being dispatched from Vela Station. Estimated arrival time is 72 hours. All non-essential personnel will be evacuated to temporary shelters." The humans exchanged glances. 72 hours seemed like a very long time for a reactor cooling problem. "What's the actual damage assessment?" Yuna called out. The commander's crystal form dimmed slightly. "External impacts have compromised the primary coolant lines in 3 locations. Secondary containment has been breached. Radiation levels in Sector 7 are elevated but within acceptable limits for short-term exposure." "How short-term?" Minho asked. "Evacuation procedures allow for up to 72 hours before." The commander paused. "Before the situation becomes critical." Near the back of the crowd, they spotted Nari Song, the human head of maintenance engineering. She had been on the station for 2 years and was the most senior human present. Her face was pale as she studied readings on her tablet. After the briefing ended, the 3 students approached her. "How bad is it really?" Jiho asked quietly. Nari glanced around to make sure no aliens were listening. "Bad," The external scans missed some internal damage. I've been running calculations and the cooling system won't last 72 hours. Maybe 8 if we're lucky. 8 hours? Yuna whispered. What happens then? Complete reactor failure. The explosion will take out the entire station and probably damage 3 nearby shipping lanes. Minho felt a familiar cold feeling in his stomach, the same sensation he'd had during the asteroid mine disaster when they'd lost pressure in the main shaft. What are the aliens planning to do? Follow the protocols, Nari said bitterly. Evacuate everyone and hope the repair drones arrive in time. Except they won't because the station will be gone before they get here. So what do we do? Jiho asked. Nari looked at the 3 young humans. They were students, barely out of training programs. But they were also from Earth, which meant they understood what others couldn't. Sometimes following proper procedures meant everyone died. We fix it ourselves, she said simply. An hour later, the evacuation was in full swing. Transport ships docked regularly to take away non-essential personnel. The aliens moved with practiced efficiency, following procedures that had been refined over centuries. The humans had requested a meeting with Commander Equilibrium of Command. They found the station's leader in the Emergency Command Center, coordinating the evacuation with crystalline precision. Commander, Nari said, we need to talk about the reactor situation. The situation is under control, the commander replied without looking up from the displays. Evacuation is proceeding on schedule. No, it's not under control, Nari said firmly. The reactor won't last 8 hours. We need to attempt repairs now. The commander's crystal body stopped flickering for a moment. That is impossible. The radiation levels make repairs extremely dangerous. The damaged areas are structurally unstable. The required repairs are not covered by any established procedure. We know, Minho said. We want to try anyway. Now the commander did look at them, his crystalline features reflecting light in patterns of confusion. You wish to enter a highly radioactive area with failing structural integrity to attempt repairs that have never been tested? Yes, the 4 humans said together. The silence in the command center was deafening. Alien officers stared at the humans as if they had suggested jumping into a star. The risk assessment shows a 77% probability of death for anyone attempting such repairs, the commander said slowly, which means a 23% chance of success, Yuna pointed out. That's better odds than waiting for help that won't arrive in time. Commander Thekvar, who had been coordinating student evacuations, stepped forward. This is madness. You are students. You have families, futures, lives to live. Why would you throw them away on such desperate odds? Jiho looked at his instructor, the alien who had been trying to teach him proper safety procedures for months. Because if we don't try, everyone dies. Not just us. Everyone on the station, everyone on the transport ships that won't get far enough away, everyone in the shipping lanes. The evacuation will succeed, insisted another alien officer. The protocols are proven. The protocols assume you have 72 hours, Nari said. We have 8. Maybe less, Minho stepped forward. Commander, we know this is dangerous. We know we might die. But on Earth, we learned something important. Sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do is nothing. The aliens looked horrified by this logic. Their entire civilization was built on avoiding unnecessary risks, on following safe procedures that protected everyone. You are asking me to authorize a suicide mission, the commander said finally. No, Yuna corrected. We're asking you to authorize a rescue mission. The suicide mission is sitting here and waiting while the reactor explodes. Arguments broke out among the alien officers. Some insisted that proper procedure must be followed, that taking such risks was barbaric and primitive. Others pointed out that if the humans were right about the timeline, everyone would die anyway. The debate raged for 30 minutes before the commander finally spoke. I cannot officially authorize such a mission, Equilibrium of Command said carefully. The risk assessment protocols forbid it. He paused. His crystal form flickering in what the humans had learned was deep thought. However, if certain individuals were to take unauthorized action during a crisis situation, and if that action were to save lives, the Confederation might choose to overlook the violation of safety protocols. It wasn't permission, but it wasn't a refusal either. We'll need access to the restricted areas, Nari said. I will be inspecting those areas personally in 1 hour, the commander replied. If certain doors were to be left unlocked during my inspection, And if certain safety barriers were to malfunction temporarily, these would be unfortunate technical difficulties. The humans smiled. Even aliens, it seemed, could learn to bend rules when lives were at stake. As they prepared for what might be their last mission, word spread through the station. The crazy humans were going to attempt the impossible. Some aliens called them heroes, others called them fools. The humans didn't care what they were called. They had work to do. The radiation detectors started clicking before they even reached Sector 7. Minho checked his protective suit for the third time, making sure all seals were tight. The gear they wore would protect them for maybe 30 minutes in the damaged areas, not nearly long enough for proper repairs, but all they had. "Remember," Nari said over the comm as they approached the blast doors, 15-minute shifts maximum. Any longer and the radiation will cook you from the inside. We'll work in teams and rotate. The first blast door opened with a grinding sound that made everyone wince. Beyond it lay a corridor that looked like it had been through a war. Torn metal panels hung from the ceiling, coolant pipes had burst and frozen in strange shapes, and emergency lights flickered weakly through the toxic mist. "It's worse than I thought," Yuna whispered. They split into two teams. Minho and Jiho headed for the primary cooling junction while Yuna and Nari went to assess the control systems. Both teams carried tablets showing reactor schematics, but they all knew that the plans were useless now. The damage was too extensive and too chaotic for any manual to predict. The radiation detector on Minho's belt clicked faster as they approached the cooling junction. When they finally saw it, both humans stopped and stared. "Well," Jiho said after a long moment, "that's completely destroyed." The primary cooling junction looked like someone had hit it with explosives. The main pipes were twisted and broken. Coolant had frozen into bizarre ice formations, and the control mechanisms were scattered across the floor in pieces. "How are we supposed to fix this?" Minho asked. Jiho was already studying the wreckage, his engineering mind analyzing the problem. "We can't fix it, but maybe we can replace it." "Replace it with what?" "Emergency bulkhead materials. Look, if we can reroute the coolant through a temporary junction." Jiho started sketching on his tablet, showing how they could use hull plating and spare conduits to create a makeshift cooling system. Meanwhile, Yuna and Nari had reached the control center and found their own nightmare. The computers that managed the cooling system were fried beyond recognition. Melted circuits and cracked displays covered every surface. "The whole control system is dead," Nari reported over the comm. "We can't regulate flow rates or monitor temperatures." "Can you rebuild it?" Minho asked, as he and Jiho started gathering materials from damaged bulkheads. "Not with what we have here," Yuna replied. "But maybe I can jury-rig something basic, just enough to keep the reactor stable." She pulled out her personal tablet and began connecting it to the surviving power lines. It was completely against protocol. Personal devices weren't rated for reactor control systems, but protocols assumed you had proper equipment, which they didn't. The work was exhausting. Every few minutes, someone's radiation detector would reach dangerous levels and they'd have to switch out. The replacement team would continue where the others left off, trying to understand improvised repairs made by people who were slowly being poisoned by invisible energy. Minho and Jiho had managed to create a temporary cooling junction using hull plating, spare pipes, and emergency sealant. It looked nothing like the elegant original design, but their calculations showed it might work. "It's ugly, but it should. Hold pressure," Minho reported as they finished the last welds. "Beautiful is working," Nari replied. "Ugly is fine." Yuna had made progress too. Using her tablet, some spare electronics she'd found in a vending machine, and conductive wire stripped from decorative fixtures, she'd created a basic control system. "I can monitor coolant flow and temperature," she announced. "But someone will need to manually adjust the valves if anything goes wrong." "Manually adjust them from where?" Jiho asked. "From inside the reactor compartment." The silence over the comm was telling. Inside the reactor compartment, radiation levels were lethal even with protective suits. Any human could survive maybe 15 minutes before the damage became irreversible. "I'll do it," came a new voice over the comm. Hyunwoo Choi, another human, engineering student, had arrived with additional supplies. "Hyunwoo, you don't have to," Nari started. "Yes, I do," he interrupted. Someone has to do it, and I'm the best qualified. I worked on reactor maintenance for 3 years before coming here. The aliens monitoring from the command center watched, in horrified fascination as the humans calmly discussed who would volunteer for what amounted to a suicide mission. The radiation exposure will be fatal, Commander Thekvar said over the general comm channel. Maybe, Hyunwoo replied. Human radiation tolerance is higher than most species. I might survive long enough to get the job done. As Hyunwoo suited, up in the heaviest protective gear they could find, the others finished their improvised repairs. None of it looked like it belonged on a sophisticated space station. The cooling system was held together with emergency patches and spare parts. The control system was a collection of jury-rigged electronics that any safety inspector would condemn immediately. But somehow it all worked together. Systems are online, Yuna reported. Coolant is flowing through the new junction. Temperature readings are stable. For now, Nari added grimly. But we need someone in the reactor compartment to fine-tune the flow rates. The automated systems can't handle our improvised setup. Hyunwoo was ready. As he prepared to enter the most dangerous part of the station, he opened a personal comm channel to his family on Earth. So Hyun, if you're listening to this, I want you to know I'm thinking of you, he said calmly. Tell Minji to keep practicing violin. She's getting really good. The other humans felt tears in their eyes, but they kept working. This was what humans did. They sacrificed for each other, for strangers, for people they'd never meet. Entering reactor compartment now, Hyunwoo announced. Inside the reactor room, the radiation was so intense that his detector stopped clicking and just made a continuous whine. But the reactor core was beautiful in its deadly way, a swirling ball of contained energy that powered the entire station. I can see the manual valve controls, he reported. They're about 20 meters from the entrance. Following Yuna's instructions, he began adjusting the flow rates by hand. It was dangerous, precise work. Too little coolant and the reactor would overheat. Too much and the improvised system would burst from pressure. Temperature rising in Sector 3, Yuna called out. Need more flow to that area. Got it, Hyunwoo replied, his voice already showing strain from the radiation exposure. For 47 minutes he stayed in that deadly room, making adjustments as the improvised cooling system struggled to handle the reactor's heat. His protective suit's alarms went off after 15 minutes, warning of dangerous radiation levels. He ignored them. Temperature stabilizing across all sectors, Yuna finally announced. The reactor is under control. Hyunwoo emerged from the reactor compartment, barely conscious. The radiation had made him violently ill, but he was alive. The station was saved. In the command center, aliens stared at their displays in disbelief. The improvised repairs had worked. A collection of spare parts and desperate improvisation had accomplished what proper procedures said was impossible. Commander Equilibrium of Command watched the temperature readings hold steady and realized he was witnessing something extraordinary. These humans had saved everyone on the station by ignoring every safety protocol in existence, and somehow, incredibly, it had worked. 3 days later, Hyunwoo was sitting up in the medical bay. His skin had a grayish tint from radiation exposure, and he would need treatments for months, but he was alive. More importantly, so was everyone else on Station Kepler 7. The improvised cooling system continued to work perfectly. Engineers from across the Confederation had come to study it, trying to understand how spare parts and desperation had created something that worked better than the original design. Minho sat beside Hyunwoo's bed, reading reports on his tablet. Listen to this, he said. The Confederation Engineering Council is calling your repairs an impossible achievement that violates fundamental principles of safe engineering. Do they mean it as a compliment? Hyunwoo asked weakly. I think so. They also want to study our methods. In the hallway outside, Commander Thekvar and Professor Resonance of Order stood watching through the window. They had been there often over the past 3 days, trying to understand what they had witnessed. They succeeded by ignoring every safety protocol we taught them, Thekvar said, confusion clear in his voice. Did they? Resonance of Order replied thoughtfully. Or did they follow different safety protocols, ones we never considered? What do you mean? The crystalline professor's body shimmered as he thought. We prioritized individual safety over mission success. They prioritized mission success over individual safety. But which approach actually kept more beings alive? Tekvar considered this. If the humans had followed proper procedures, everyone on the station would have died when the reactor exploded. By risking their own lives, the humans had saved hundreds. I still do not understand how they made their decisions, Tekvar admitted. They had no manual for the repairs they attempted. No tested procedures, no guarantee of success. How did they know what to do? Perhaps we should ask them. They entered the medical bay where all 4 human engineers were gathered. Yuna and Jiho had brought Nari and Hyunwoo reports from the investigation into the cooling system repairs. We want to understand, Resonance of Order said directly. How did you know your improvised repairs would work? What procedures did you follow? The humans looked at each other. It was Nari who answered first. We didn't know they would work, she said simply. We just knew that doing nothing definitely wouldn't work. But how did you make decisions without proper protocols? Tekvar pressed. Minho tried to explain. We looked at what needed to happen. The reactor needed cooling. The coolant needed to flow. The system needed control. Then we figured out how to make those things happen with what we had. But that is so dangerous, Tekvar protested. What if you had made mistakes? What if your improvised systems had failed? Then we would have died, Hyunwoo said calmly from his bed. But we were going to die anyway if we did nothing. At least this way we had a chance. Resonance of Order's crystal form flickered rapidly as he processed this logic. You accepted personal risk to prevent catastrophic failure. Right, Yuna agreed. Your protocols are designed to keep individuals safe in normal situations. But in a crisis, sometimes keeping individuals safe means everyone dies. So you gamble with your lives? Tekvar asked. We make calculated risks, Jiho corrected. We estimate the odds and decide if the risk is worth taking. Sometimes the safest thing you can do is something dangerous. Over the following days, news of the humans' actions spread throughout the station and beyond. Alien students and faculty sought them out, asking questions about human engineering methods and decision-making processes. Veltar was among the most curious. Your people seem to have no fear of death, he observed during one conversation. That's not true, Minho replied. We're terrified of death, but we're more afraid of failure. I do not understand the difference, Yuna tried to explain. If I die trying to save people, that's sad but acceptable. If I survive while other people die because I was too scared to try, that's failure. We can live with dying, but we can't live with failing. Geometric Precision asked technical questions about their improvised repairs. How did you know the hull plating would withstand the pressure? How did you calculate flow rates without proper instruments? We didn't know for sure, Jiho admitted. But we made our best guesses based on experience and engineering principles. Then we tested everything and adjusted as we went. You tested improvised repairs on a live reactor? The crystalline being's form dimmed with shock. What else could we do? We didn't have time to build test models. The alien students were fascinated and horrified in equal measure. Everything the humans described went against their fundamental understanding of safe engineering practices, but they couldn't argue with the results. Word of the humans, actions reached the highest levels of the Confederation government. There were debates about whether to commend them for heroism or censure them for reckless endangerment. In the end, they did both. The humans received official commendations for saving Station Kepler-7, along with formal reprimands for violating safety protocols. The humans found this hilarious. More importantly, changes began at the Academy. A new course was created, Adaptive Crisis Response, co-taught by human and alien instructors. Students learned both proper protocols and improvised problem-solving. The course motto, suggested by Jiho during a planning meeting, was posted on the classroom wall. When proper procedure fails, improper procedure becomes proper. Commander Tekvar found himself working closely with the human instructors, learning to think differently about emergency situations. It was difficult for him to accept that sometimes the right answer wasn't in any manual. Your people have taught us something important, he told Minho during one of their planning sessions. We focused so much on preventing disaster that we forgot how to handle it when prevention failed. Your protocols are good, Minho replied. They work great when everything goes according to plan. We just learned that emergencies never go according to plan. The aliens began to understand that humans didn't ignore safety. They simply had a broader definition of what safety meant. Where aliens saw individual protection, Humans saw collective survival. As the semester continued, alien students started thinking more like their human classmates. They learned to question procedures, to consider alternatives, to take calculated risks when necessary. The humans, in turn, gained appreciation for careful planning and thorough preparation. They learned that good protocols could prevent many emergencies from happening in the first place. By the end of the academic year, the divide between human and alien approaches had largely disappeared. Students of all species learned to balance careful planning with adaptive thinking, proper procedures with creative problem-solving. The final exam for advanced crisis management was a complex scenario with multiple system failures and impossible deadlines. Working in mixed teams, alien and human students tackled the problems together. They followed protocols when they worked, improvised when they didn't, and saved everyone. Watching from the observation deck, the faculty members reflected on what they had learned. The humans were right, Resonance of Order admitted. Sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do is nothing. And we were right too, Tekvar added. Proper preparation prevents most emergencies from becoming catastrophic. Perhaps Resonance of Order concluded, true safety comes from understanding when to follow the rules and when to break them. The humans had taught the galaxy something important about survival, that sometimes you have to risk everything to save anything, and that the greatest safety sometimes comes from the greatest danger. It was a lesson that would change how the Confederation approached crisis management forever.